Professor Dr. Arvind Alok to speak a few words because we thought that you were also handling, or you are also handling, the Buddhist monument, and that also would convey some of the things which all of us or many of us don't know. So maybe some on that, and of course the floor is yours. Please.
Thank you so much. Namo tassa bhagavato arhato samma sambuddhas. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude and thanks to Lumbini Research Center for initiating this dialogue on sustainable peace through art and culture. I am really very happy to have this type of web seminar, which is going to discuss how peace can be restored through art and culture. And since this conference is being organized from Lumbini by the Lumbini Research Center, it's really very relevant because as a Buddhist expert and chairman of the Buddhist Development Council, and also as a heritage conservator, I am of the firm opinion that if peace has to sustain, and especially in the light of the teachings of the Buddha, it is only through the heritage mind, the mind of art, the mind of culture. In Sanskrit saying is Pasubhi Samana Kala Vihina. Kala Vihina Pasubhi Samana. Means we are human beings. We all do possess a sense of art and culture within ourselves. Art is just not painting. It's not the monument. It's not only the different art facets. It's the thoughts which gives creation to our natural mind. And when we talked about the Buddhist perspective, our Buddhist heritage has been contributing to a very vital role for promoting peace, not only in India, Nepal, and Asia, rather all over the world. In course of my interactions and visits to different countries, I did find that lot of artists, the musicians, the painters, the heritage conservators, they did a very significant role to promote peace, because peace is a mental behavior, a mental level that inculcates in one's mind and that creates a suitable environment for peace and bliss and harmony in the society, in the family, in the country, and in the world, lastly. So, as Buddha had said, Nahi vairena vairani, sumanti dha kudachanam, avairena cha samanti, es dhammo sanantano. Means the hatred cannot be won through hatred. It's only possible through love, affection, tolerance. And these human qualities can only be developed through art, through culture. So this is a very, very important aspect that we should focus on. And in the spiritual aspect, it's more relevant, not only in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in Jainism, in Sikhism, even in Islam, even in Christianity. When I visit the temples, even the churches, you find the fragrance of peace through art and culture. Like when we visit Lumbini, why we feel Lumbini? Because when we go there, we feel the fragrance of peace, and that is a beautiful heritage, the birthplace of our Lord, the Buddha, the Sakya Muni. So wise, different places of heritage and monuments, they do depict very significantly a sense of peace for those who visit them. Therefore, it is very important that we develop peace through art and culture, because this development of peace through art and culture is going to sustain. We talk about peace. Peace can come for a time being, for a few minutes, for half an hour, for 2 hours. But the world needs a sustainable peace, because this type of peace can guarantee harmony and friendship, brotherhood, and bliss world over. And especially the people of different races, the different religions, the different cultures, they are fighting. They are fighting, and when we are trying to restore peace and promote peace, it is not so possible. So if we have to have a sustainable peace, we must develop this peace through heritage, through culture. Because in order to have an understanding of a society, in the human psychology, art is the only medium, like the Asian society, the African society, the Latin American society, or European society. They can only be understood through their depiction of art and heritage, the music, the literature. So this is very important that we try to promote this speech, which is ultimately bliss for us through art and culture. And I really compliment the Lumbini Peace Research Center. You had organized in the past also on different facets of human values. And this time of this organization of the conference on sustainable peace through art and culture and heritage is very commendable. So I, on behalf of myself and on behalf of my people and the entire people who are associated with peace and bliss, once again, I acknowledge my thanks to you, and I quote from the teaching of the Buddha, Sabbe tasanti dandasa, Sabbe samjivatam piyam. Every life is important, whether we are human beings or animals. With these words, once again, I acknowledge my sincerest thanks to you, and I again quote, Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam, Charatha Bhikkhu Charitam, Bhujan Hitai, Bhujan Sukhai, Namo Buddhai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Alok, for such an enlightening opening statement. Actually, I beg pardon from Dr. Niranjan Man Singh Basnet, because initially or at the beginning, we were supposed to read out SAARC Secretary Generals and Japanese ambassadors and some more statements. They were not able to join us here, but they have sent their good wishes, greetings. So I would request Dr. Basnet to please read that out now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vista. We had requested so many prominent people to join our webinar today, but SAARC Secretary General and Ambassador of Japan in Kathmandu, they have expressed their inability because of their previous engagements. So I would like to read out the message from SAARC Secretary General, His Excellency Bira Kun. He has said that much I would have liked to address the webinar. I regret to inform you my inability to do so in view of other prior commitments. However, I do hope to be a part of your such events in future. I wish to commend the Center for this initiative and the apt theme chosen for deliberations. I wish the Center every success in the webinar. Now I move to the message from the Ambassador of Japan in Kathmandu, His Excellency Masamichi Saigo. His message is as follows. It is my pleasure to send a message of congratulations to all the participants on behalf of my attendance on the day. It is interesting to learn that your center continue to work by focusing various fields, and for this time it is planned as an overview of the critical link between arts and culture and conflict resolution. As this whole year we struggled with the difficulties caused by the COVID-19 situation, I hope This webinar will be food for thought that how we can proceed the peace and stability of the society even in this hard time. I wish the center successes in all its endeavors, as well as good health of the members and their families. Saigo Masamichi, Ambassador. So these are the two messages I have read out. Thank you very much.
One thing I believe we can take from this webinar is our sense of flexibility and adjustment. Today, we are supposed to have Mr. Yuvraj Ghimire, a journalist, to give us the pleasure of stating something about media and peace. And media also somehow falls within that arts and culture. But Dr. Kundan Aryal, who has a lot of experience outside as well as in Nepal, is a communication expert. Dr. Aryal, your turn.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bista and Dr. Niranjan Basnath for giving me this opportunity. Yes, last night when Dr. Bista called me to join the forum as a speaker, then I hurriedly outlined some of my viewpoint in line with the given topic of this webinar. This is sustainable peace, and I have modified it for myself for my presentation: role of media for sustaining peace. And here I want to stress that media are also known as one of the forms of culture, or in Marxist point of view, part of culture industry. So this is age of media, and we cannot imagine a political system. We cannot imagine a modern political democratic system without the presence of media. So with this background, first of all, I just present that people, government, and media. My presentation will be around these two elements of the society: people, government, and media. And society, media is one of the subsystem within a society. If we consider society, then media is one of the subsystem, and this subsystem is very pertinent, has to play very pertinent role to link, to have a build a link between different subsystems within a society. And over the years, media's effect on the various elements of peace operations is being visible across the world. And in Nepal, and especially in Republic Nepal, the today's Nepal, role of media for the peace building and role for the sustainable peace building and development is very much expected. And especially we are in a phase of sustaining peace, because we have we establish peace and we overcome the situation of war and conflict in 2006-07. Then we enter to the new phase in Nepal, that is the peace and order. Now we have we are expecting to sustain our peace. And in past we witnessed that media can glorify the war, and media can overcome, media can cover the aspiration for the peace, the people's aspiration for the peace as well. So now, with in this backdrop, now what could be the role of the media in peace, sustaining peace? Media is one of the major players to create conducive atmosphere in favor of political communication. And why I'm talking about political communication? Because it is the nature of political communication that can drive towards the violence, conflict, and that can take guide the nation towards the peace and order. So political communication is pure discussion about the allocation of public resources, revenues, official authority who is given the power to them to make legal, legislative, and executive decisions, our leaders and top level bureaucrats, officials, and official sanctions, that is reward and punishment, the provisions for the reward and punishment. So these are the area where media can play very effective role to sustain the peace, because peace is based on justice, and peace cannot be sustained without justice, and justice is always related with these three elements. And again, three elements in the process of political communication are political organizations, the audience, and the media. The audience means the people. They are people for the politicians, and they are audience for the media, but they are common. And this is the age of mediatization. I use this word, I like very much this word, because one key concept in understanding the role of media in the transformation of established democracies is mediatization. And mediatization has become an increasingly popular concept in relation to different aspects of a society. I like it because the best description of the current situation is mediatization, where people, well, political institutions, whether it is elected or non-elected, institutions increasingly are dependent on and shaped by mass media, but nevertheless remain in control of political process and functions. This is actually ideal condition, and it is the process whereby society to an increasing degree is submitted to or becomes dependent on the media and their logic. So we are bound to be moved by the media logics. And having said this, I have located three challenges for sustained peace in Nepal at current time. And in this regard, we expect this is first challenge, that media should be responsible, accountable, watchdog, that tirelessly play the role of surveillance in order to ensure good governance, rule of law, honest development effort, and peace, security, and social order. That is our expectation. And there are three aspects of this expectation. One, from the government, there should not be any deviation from the standpoint of freedom of the press, because we have already we have a very democratic constitutions declared by constituent assembly, but the government time and again has been created the controversy by trying to bring some laws they are not in favor to. They are not supposed to be in favor to this political freedom, is specifically the freedom of press. So the government should not be in deviation from the standpoint of freedom of the press. Second, from the part of media organizations and media person, that is journalism need to be accountable, fair, and truthful. And here we need to work from the part of media organizations. They need to abide by the principle of fairness. That is from their part. And third is after the new communication and information and communication revolution, that is social media, because social media are another they have become another galaxy for the communication and information. A new form of public sphere is present with the emergence of SNS, social networking sites, social media. The message out of the contents of traditional mass media have been discussing and disseminating through the social media as well. That is why the social media are very powerful role to play for the sustainable peace. And since we have resolved all political debate and taken a path for sustainable peace towards stability and growth, these social media are equally important because social media has provided tremendous individual freedom to every individual, but they need to be responsible as well. They need to be play for the good role of good citizenry. Uh, with this first challenge that comprise of three aspects of that first challenge. Second one is second and third is related to the current situation. There are challenges, especially two challenges, such as the voice of anti-establishment, that is anti-republic or anti-constitution, that is also in presence, that is also in existence. But I think that such backward-looking trend would be defeated if we overcome the ill performance or bad performance and non-serious attitude, as well as inefficiency of the people in the power, that is the government. Hence, we expect honesty towards the constitution from the government and people in the power, that is, they are the government, and we need active role. Here, we need active role of surveillance from the media. Then, what can be done in especially in current situation in Nepal, that is, media can bring the irregularities and shows the challenges, expose the challenges, and media can cultivate the culture of peace. Here, as you have mentioned on the very brief introduction of the program, very respected peace activist of the world, John Galtung. It is relevant to mention that back to 1965, Galtung and his friends analyzed that makes foreign newsworthy and further developed the notion of peace journalism. And that peace journalism and with the projection with the uh, proposal of this peace journalism, they argued that media predominantly exhibit biases towards violence and the rest of the conceptual belief that conflict equals to war. And here, Nepali media still we need to realize and we need to show in practice that conflict is not equals to war. So we can avoid biases, and hence we knew a new approach was could be practiced in Nepal also, which is also known as peace journalism. As the name suggests, it is a form of journalism committed to exploring root causes of conflict in order to create opportunities for society at large to consider and value non-violent responses to conflict. Because we have problem, and but it is very relevant to come up with the causes. Recently, a school teacher was killed very brutally in in eastern part of Nepal, and we are reminded of that very time period of high voltage of conflict during between 1996 and 2006. We are reminded of that time. Uh, that is why conflict is not equal to war. The media need to come up with the suggestions, come up with the root causes of the potential conflict, potential violence, and we can find opportunities. So there are I have four suggestions in line with Galtung's doctrine of peace journalism. In today's context, Nepali media need to continue to explore the potential areas and make pressure to the government to respect the rule of law in every case, in all the case, good governance and public opinion. And second one is uh, they need to continue to avoid the dehumanization of the parties involved and expose their interest. And third one is they need to continue to offer potential solutions to the problems with respect to justice and as per the best interest of the people. As I already earlier, as I mentioned, justice should not be undermined at any cost, at any time. And fourth one is media need to continue to expose any non-violent initiatives that take place at the grassroots level and make an atmosphere for the resolution, reconstruction, and reconciliation phase. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Aryal. We acknowledge the presence, distinguished presence of Sri Lankan resident ambassador to Nepal, Her Excellency Himali Arunatilaka. We welcome you with all our heart. Thank you. Now we move on to Professor Dr. Jose Campos. It appears that Ms. Manisa Koirala has not yet reached the venue, her venue. So we will move on to Professor Campos. Please, you go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Namaste and good evening to all the distinguished guests. Thank you to the organizers of this webinar, Doctors Binod Bista and Niranjan Pasniat, my former boss when he was the serving as the ambassador in the embassy at Kuala Lumpur. The topic I was provided is the role of the academic institution in building and keeping the peace. And I thought it dovetailed quite neatly with the concept of the Lumbini Research Center for Peace, for Understanding and Peace. And I would like to emphasize the sequence of that, understanding and peace, because I believe that that is the key to peace. There has to be understanding. Without understanding, it is very hard to have any kind of peace. Well, as an academic institution, perhaps you have yourself been familiar or you have seen your children or your grandchildren when they are at preschool. One of the most important rules they're taught is to use their words. What do they mean? So when they're communicating and they have differences, to resolve their differences, to use their words and not to lose patience and use force, in other words, to impose what it is they want to resolve. It is also to use the word please when asking something of others, which is a respectful way and to deal, to establish a relationship. And maybe another important issue is to learn to share learning materials and to understand and appreciate that learning is a collaborative and group effort, and that it is by sharing in the context of the classroom that learning actually takes place, that discovery happens, that some knowledge is created. So these are the foundations any community of learners, which I would say is not just a student, but the faculty themselves are students, on which the progression of learning and scholarship is constructed. At the level of higher education, foundation ideas in general education are concepts of identity and the self. That is either identity and the self as an individual, or identity and self as the group. And then there is the concept of the other. The other can be another person, it can be another group, or it can even be nature. But one of the fundamental issues for understanding is when you have two people, two groups, a person and nature. So these are objects that understanding has to evolve. And there is the concept of the good, which, of course, is a very fundamental concept we all have and we share as to what what is good in life, or what is a good life, which we all aspire to. And many times the concept of the good is drawn from religious beliefs. In the Philippines, for example, uh, Catholic Christianity is a very dominant force in terms of shaping the concept of the good and what is right. Now, in an educational system, of course, one of the soft skills is we help our students go through is the what is the process of arriving at an understanding. And one of the most important steps in that is knowledge that goes beyond just knowing your history, knowing the practices, customs, and beliefs that have been transmitted to you. But perhaps more important is exposing your biases and your prejudices. And it can be on an individual level, your prejudices and biases, because we all have pre-received ideas which we have to examine critically, because that is the only way we can move beyond certain stereotypes that we may have. It can be as a group, there can be institutional biases and institutional or prejudices which shape our institution. And the previous speaker in media, when he was referring to justice and the role of the media, this is one of the important things, to expose, to critique what is some hidden or unacknowledged biases in the society or by individuals. And then there is the notion of communication. And there are maybe, you could say, two types of communication. There is a communication with the intent to arrive at an understanding. Uh, there is an openness, an open-mindedness to accept what the other party or other group is saying. And there is also a honest effort to understand each other. There is also a type of communication that you might call strategic communication, which is sometimes not really to arrive at an understanding, but more to impose an objective, to arrive at an objective that is pre-decided. So these are this strategic communication is really not a type of communication that is open towards arriving at an understanding. So within this communicative competence in the community of learners, what after all is a community of learners but we are a group of scholars, a group of students who try to reflect on ourselves, reflect on the world, reflect on issues, share those reflections, and arrive at a shared understanding of a new understanding or a better understanding of whatever it is that is the object of research and scholarship. Art and culture is actually a very important component of this. And in a way, when we're talking of peace, I want to distinguish the creation of art and culture, which the first speakers touched on, as a form of, a high form of, in fact, fulfillment, and distinguish it from just which unfortunately brings people into conflict because material resources are limited. And when people are focused on material consumption rather than cultural creation and consumption, creation of art and appreciation of art, then there is there is more conflict in society when the material basis is the primary focus rather than the fulfillment brought about by cultural and art forms. This is, I think, the important role of the academic institution in building and keeping the peace. We have a microcosm of a society, a small community of learners where we develop some understandings of ourselves, the other, how to communicate, shared objective in creation of knowledge, and the expression of that knowledge through art and culture. That's one thing about sharing art and culture. It does not diminish in value. It's like education or knowledge. The more you share it, the more its value is enhanced. Unlike maybe a piece of bread, which only so many people can share, knowledge can be shared in an unlimited way. You know, with this, I would like to say that I hope that the global nature of the issues we now face can only be really addressed a global community of learners. And I think one of the aspirations of the Lumbini Research Center is to create such a community. We now have the technologies through communication, and our previous speaker mentioned social media. And we need to really have a global community of learners who will work together to help arrive at common understandings to deal with what we now face are global issues, whether it is extreme weather conditions. And now we are here in our state with a virus running around globally and affecting all of us. Or even previous to this, economic dislocations in 2008, financial failure in the financial center in New York. This initiative, I think, to organize the Lumbini Research Center for Understanding and Peace is coming at a very uh, important time. So I congratulate our organizers, Dr. Basniat and Dr. Bista, on this very laudable, objective and, um, well, accomplishment of organizing this research center. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Excellency Campos, for your very kind remarks to us as well. Now, I would like to request Sri Madan Chitrakar to make his presentation, please.
Namaste. Hello, good evening. So it's very cold here. I would like to say a warm good evening to all. First of all, please allow me to express my deep gratitude and thank you for inviting me to this, the presence of these all distinguished guests, the all eminent scholars from different sectors of life, eminent journalists, eminent planners, and all architects I can see. So I'm able to speak here. I feel deeply honored and I feel very privileged. And especially Dr. Bista and Dr. Niranjan Bosniak. You called me, you taught me of worthy of being here. So I'm really thankful to Lumbini understanding and peace. And I'm asked to speak on the role of art in making peace and understanding. So I think when we speak peace, I think the thoughts and the message of Lord Buddha, they become synonymous. And when we see that in the context of history of Nepal, I think it has become our history of art begins from the motifs from Buddhism. Although it is dated, our art, any dated paintings begins in 11th century, but the art has remained in existence since the very holy times, right from the 2nd century onwards. But they were all the art forms were based on the message of Buddhism, although primitive in style, tribal in forms, but they were the message of Buddhist message. But when we come to see the dated art evidence, we see it comes from Asta Sahasrika Pragyaparamita. Earlier, I listened to Dr. Alok speak also. I think he talked a lot about Buddhism and the relationship of art. I think, please let me repeat again that very message was the earliest message Buddhist, the art history begins right in 11th century or dated. So I think the importance of message of peace and of Buddhism cannot be ignored in the context of Nepali history. And when it comes down, we see the growth of wall painting, murals. Again, we see there were a lot of growth of Buddhist biharas in Kathmandu. Kathmandu Valley, you can see all around the medieval Buddhist biharas, still now they are in existence. But one of the most important integral part of those bihars, monasteries, were the mural paintings. All the mural, the exterior facade is decorated by the narratives of Lord Buddha. So you can see the importance of art in the context of history and the peace. In Nepali history, there have been a lot of ups and downs, lots of violence. Regardless of all the political upheavals, the art continued. Again, on the basis of Buddhism. In the medieval times also, the medieval rulers were Hindu rulers. They believe in Hinduism, but still, the art based on Buddhism continued to progress, foster. History is a witness. Our history is full of Buddhist messages. And when you come down to the 16th and 17th century, it was a rise of the Shakta cult, we call it. The followers of mother goddesses. Still, the influence of Buddhism never waned. The message of peace never waned. It never declined. And moreover, throughout over the all years, centuries, the message of Buddhism and peace continued to inspire all the generation of artists, all the painters. But when we come down to fast forward to modern times, things have changed a lot. There have been a lot of violences also. Even the right earlier speaker has mentioned the repetition of violence again in a very recent time. Professor Kundan Aryal was mentioning about that. I think even in this hardened times, the art can play a very important role. Where earlier, when there was the observe of the violence, the Maoist influence, the conflict also, people were distracted by many ways, but the only people who continued to wage war through the message of peace, the artists came down to street and started performing art, giving a message that violence doesn't pay. All we need to stand for peace. So art has been remained a great tool and very instrumental in communicating the message. Even now, as I've said earlier, in the fast forward modern times, the art still can play a tool for communicating peace and development, either in the form of canvas or in different. Now art has been expressed in many different forms, performing art, or you can call it video art, so on and so on. Still, the message can be there. The peace play an important role. The message of Buddhism can play a role, and so the peace. I don't waste time. I think we have had many speakers here. I would like to thank once again the organizers, especially Dr. Vista, for inviting me here and making me able to speak few words. Thank you very much. I'd like to take a goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sri Madan Chitrakar ji. Thank you so much for attending this webinar and giving us, shedding some light on the value of arts and culture to peace. Now the program, as we have distributed to you all, speakers have spoken their part. We have specially selected about 10-15 minutes for the eminent persons who are gathered here to add to whatever has been presented. So if anything is left or anything needed to be added so that the audience could have a better insight of what we are discussing about. So that would take about 10-15 minutes, and the rest, about 20-25 minutes, would be open for discussion for everybody. I would request Dr. Niranjan Mansingh Basnet by inviting maybe a few selected persons. Then we'll open the floor for general discussions where anybody can participate.
Thank you, Dr. Bista, for this opportunity. And now I would like to request our immediate ambassador, former ambassador and presently the acting chairman of China Studies Center, Sundarnath Bhattrai, if he has anything to add on the presentations that has been made this evening. Ambassador Bhattrai.
Yeah, actually, I don't have to add anything to what I've heard from our eminent participants. I really didn't really think of participating in the debate also, except I would like to express my sincere appreciation for what Dr. Vinod Bista and Master Niranjan Mansingh Basnet have done in creating this center, Lumbini Peace Research Center, for advocating peace, which is the most vital basis for any kind of activities or development any nation wants to back. So I really would like to refrain from making any further comment on this. I thank you for the opportunity you have given me to just I wanted to use this for wishing you all the best for the center. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Bhattrai. Now I would like to, I have the pleasure to welcome Ambassador of Sri Lanka in Kathmandu, Her Excellency Himali Aruna Tilaka. If she has something to add in view of Sri Lankan perspective on this sustaining peace through arts and culture, I would like to request Her Excellency to add something if she has any. Ambassador Aruna Tilaka.
Yes, thank you, Ambassador Basnath, and thank you, all of you. I do not have any comments to make at this point. I have been listening to all the speakers with great interest. Unfortunately, at this particular moment, I don't have anything to add, but I would like to follow in future also your webinars and hope to join you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your presence. And we hope that you will be attending our such webinars and other programs also. If we organize in Lumbini, we hope you will have your presence. Now, I would like to give the floor to Sudarshan Raj Tiwari. He is an expert on history and culture. So if you have anything to add, Professor Tiwari, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Basnath. I'm very happy just being a kind of a listener to this, and I come in more as an educator. I think the concepts of how messages of Lord Buddha can be still effective in sustaining peace, peaceful efforts. The ideas of using education and learning communities and means of resolving conflicts from very early age and taking that ideas for the preservation of peace, or at least to ensure that conflicts are not flagrated. We heard the media's role, and I think we can see that, and the need for the media to be responsible, and the need for it to be honest in promoting peace and not to incite violence. And I think the Madanji's presentation, particularly the role of art and cultural artifacts as objects that can be shared indefinitely, and unlike the material possessions or material thoughts, these to me appear as very important drivers of sustainability in peace. And I personally think sustaining peace, I think the most important thing is to have peace within the individual, and as a kind of objective in life. If that is achieved, I think peace between you and me, or other institutions, between one institution and another, could be more easily achieved. And that's I think something Lord Buddha also preached to us. And so my addition, if that is any addition at all, is that for sustenance of sustenance of peace, individuals have to cultivate their own minds towards peace and quietude and kind of compassion for others. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tiwari. Now I move to Professor Dr. Mohan Lohani, who is our eminent ambassador and also a professor in English literature. And he has contributed a lot in different papers and magazines. So I would like to invite him if he has anything to add. Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Basnath, for giving me the floor. we already heard 4 eminent speakers: Professor Alok from India, Professor Campos from Philippines, and 2 scholars from Nepal, Mr. Kundan Aryal and Mr. Chitrakar, Madan Chitrakar. Of course, we were also expecting Manisha Koirala to share her views, but unfortunately, she is not here. You, Ambassador Bosnet, you introduced me as a professor of English. Yes, when I was in the Central Department of English, we revamped the curriculum of the postgraduate English language and literature. Before revamping this syllabus or this curriculum, we followed the traditional pattern of teaching, just British literature and a few American writers. But in 1995, another cousin of mine, Professor Sridhar Loni, he's also known as a real scholar in English literature. He introduced some interdisciplinary courses in the curriculum of literature. And I would mention 2 courses which have relevance in our discussion today. The first course was Inter-Art Studies, because our focus is on art and culture. And the second course was Media Studies, about which Kundan Aryal dwelt at some length. Its importance, its relevance, and how can it contribute to sustaining peace. So these 2 courses, they become very popular in the Central Department of English at the postgraduate level. Many, and Media Studies, we had some young scholars who taught this course. And for Inter-Art Studies, you have heard the name of Professor Abhi Subedi. He taught this course, and his class was attended by really a large number of students, because his delivery was very impressive. He could impress the audience with his scholarship and with his, let us say, his references to diverse sources, both Eastern philosophy, Eastern arts and culture, and also Western arts and culture. So that's how, he could synthesize approaches to both Western and Eastern arts and culture. But anyway, leaving that aside, and today we spent almost 1 hour on the significance of arts and culture in sustaining peace. Professor Alok, at the very beginning, he really enlightened us with some messages from Lord Buddha. Definitely, when we talk about peace, it is inseparable from Buddhism, from the message of Buddha. They go together. One cannot, we can't think of peace in isolation from Buddhist thought, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist contribution to our knowledge and other aspect of life. Our scholar from Philippines, and which was also referred to by Professor Sudarshan Raj Tiwari, he also, made a distinction between our infatuation, our obsession with too much of material life, material prosperity, material, let us say, comfort, etc. And then, of course, arts and literature, they represent the aesthetic side, the spiritual side. They, in fact, to be precisely speaking, they are the means of providing bliss. We can enjoy bliss through arts and literature, no, through arts and culture, because these are forms of literature or forms of aesthetic science, which really elevate our minds, which they really elevate our spirit. Madan Chitrakar also, he is principal of Sirjana Arts, Fine Arts, and he also spoke very nicely, beautifully about the relevance of arts and literature. So I think there is a consensus that peace can be sustained by cultivating, by promoting arts and culture. They cannot be excluded from the topic of promoting peace or sustaining peace. So they go together. And arts and the contribution of arts and literature, arts and culture is just simply undeniable. It is there. It is very much there, and it is up to prominent artists, eminent cultural specialists to do something to contribute more in this field, so that peace becomes sustainable and peace can be sustained. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Lohani. Now I recognize so many distinguished participants. If any participants has any thing to add, please indicate yourself and I will give you the floor.
Thank you, sir. First, I would like to thank Dr. Vinod Bister, brother, for inviting me in such a great program. I also saw my respected teacher, Mohan sir, Professor Mohan sir. I'm happy to see him after a long time. But today I have come for the first time in this webinar among you. So I just heard. I didn't make any mind to ask questions, so I don't have. Even then, so I think that unless and until we make our mind that all we are one, peace is not possible. So this is my attitude. I have to explore this. Thank you all for the good presentations, good views. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I recognize Mr. Umesh Bahadur Malla. He is Vice President of Nepal Council of World Affairs. If you have anything, Malla sir, if you have anything to add, please go ahead.
We call Pro for Urban Regeneration Project of the World Bank, ADB, the World Bank and the Nepal government, where Dr. Sudarshan Tiwari also was a part of the project. We did various programs for launching tangible, intangible heritage, cultural heritage. One of the things we found that in just 2.5 years, the project lesson we draw from the lesson that it has got, trying to conserve the cultural heritage, we found that it has got political, economic, social, environmental dimensions, indirectly contributing to peace within the community of the Lalitpur metropolitan city. So if we can have this kind of project, this creates a bigger impact in the overall societal system so that it can contribute to peace. And one thing what I want to draw your attention is as one of the lyrics, the King Siddhi Narsingh Malla has written 36 ragas, music ragas. It's a unique combination of the art, music as well as the poetry. So this is still song 400 years back. It was written. Now it's still continuing in Lalitpur city as a ragas, which is sung every evening by the groups in Lalitpur. So this how this kind of cultural consequence we can contribute to peace. This is what I'm trying to emphasize. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malla. Now I recognize if he has anything to add. Mr. Praveen Pathak, he is joining us from Paris. Mr. Pathak, if you have anything, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, I wasn't planning to say anything, but I would just maybe like to, there's lots of information, valuable information, interesting information that was shared. So I would just like to maybe give you a summary of what I've captured. So through all the distinguished speakers, we talked about messages from Lord Buddha, we talked about art, education, culture. So what I gather from all this is, in order to establish peace, we need to be compassionate. We need to be able to understand each other, and then we can find a sustainable peace. And with education, with arts and literature that many of the speakers said and all the comments were made, I think that is a very sustainable way of understanding yourself and then understanding everyone else in order to establish a sustainable peace. And I think in that matter, having an approach and choosing, Lord Buddha as our idol, or let's say the inspiration, that is a very wise and good choice. And I think this is something that can be, it's not religiously inclined to one religion or the other. So I think that would be very critical for us, everyone, people who are involved in with the center, and as well as people like us, in order to pass on this message at a more global level, with one thing in mind, that at the end of the day, we all want this place to be happier, more peaceful, and compassionate for everyone. So I really appreciate all the views and opinions, and I thank you for getting me the opportunity to participate and express a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pathak. And now I go to Mr. Rabindranath Bhattrai, if he has anything to add on. He is associated with the Nepal Council of World Affairs, and he is an associate professor. Please go ahead, Mr. Bhattrai, if you have anything to add.
It's already presented by eminent scholars. And what I want to share my experience, that there are different religions in the world which all proceeds for the peace. But in today's environment, there are various caste and ethnic group violation exist. There may be the conflict arises due to various reasons that may arise conflict between different caste and ethnic groups. That's why if there are any possibilities to create peace among the different caste and ethnic groups, if that is being carried out all over the world, if the paper presenter want to enlighten me about this aspect as well as other aspects. Not only the Buddhas, before Buddhas there was no peace in the world? If yes, what type of peace exists, or what are the measurement of peace education or peace index is there available in other religion also? If such exist, why we are quarreling among the different religious groups like Hindu, Buddhist, Christianity, Muslim? If peace is the universal fact, why we don't require, or why we do not combine them as a solid institution or solid education for all caste and ethnic groups? If there are any research being, I'm not the students of the religion as well as the Buddhism, but may I know from our experts that if there are any studies carried out among these things, then if somebody enlighten me, then I'll be more than happy to know all the things, arts and culture among the ethnic groups that may perpetuate the perpetual peace, sustainable peace in the worlds to come. Thank you, Niranjan sir and Binod sir, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I go to Mr. Prabhure Yadav. If he has anything to add, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Actually, I had no any query, but I heard my name, so I have a right to share a few words because I have got this opportunity. I had not accepted. I would like to say a few words about Lord Buddha. While I share my own experience while I was in Russia in 2019. In 2019, I was in Russia for 25 days a tour. There were 25 participants from different countries of the world. And I visited there 5 places in Russia, in Crimea, Petersburg, Moscow, such places. People used to ask me, so Mr. Prabhu, you are from the country of Lord Buddha. So are you a Buddhist? And I told them, I am not Buddhist, I am a Hindu. So there's a Hindu, so people of Nepal, they are follower of Lord Buddha. Yes, there are no, in Nepal, there is not only Hindu, there are several types of peoples from several religions. So these are the arts and cultures. So people from all cultures, all arts, they appreciate, they respect the teaching of Lord Buddha. So the place Lumbini is very familiar. Last year I went over there to participate a conference organized by Literary Association, Nepali Literary Association. And there I got opportunity to meet to VC in Lumbini University. So the place is very, very appreciable. The place is very peaceful. All several countries of Asian countries, they have established their own arts and cultures. So the place is very familiar for peace. So we would like, personally, I would like to spread the message of Lord Buddha, not only in Nepal, but all over the world. So thank you. Thank you for providing me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Yadav, for your input. Now, I would like to ask the presenters, our distinguished presenters, about the questions asked by Mr. Rabindranath Bhattrai. He had asked some questions. So I will go first with Dr. Alok, if he has to say anything about his question.
So the question was related with the ethnic groups and what the possibility of peace among them, and whether peace was available before the Buddha or in different periods. I would like to add to this, as answer to this question is that we have been doing many researches with the ethnic groups, especially about in the Buddhist areas, because most of our people live in the mountains area. In Nepal also, the Buddhists, especially the Buddhist people, in mountains area, in Nepal, in India also. And one gentleman mentioned about Russia. So Kalmykia, Buria, Tuva, they are the distant places and all the ethnic groups are there. So we are working with them and researchers are there. And the main question is how to do peace, how to talk peace, how to preserve peace, how to create peace. And it has nothing to do with religion. Peace starts in the mind and peace goes in the mind. So only the mind has to play a role. It is not related with any religion. So I have been a part of many of the interfaith dialogues around the world on different forums, and we always talked about that it is the mind which has to guarantee peace for ourselves, for the society, and for the nations. So even in the Buddhist perspective, the Hindu perspective, Islamic perspective, the Christian perspective, we always talk about how to inculcate a wisdomful mind, a compassionate mind, and if we contribute to the peace for everyone, irrespective of caste, religion, or anything, color also. So researches are there, and I would advise you that this time you talked about this peace, sustainable peace through art and culture. I will suggest very humbly to Lumbini Research Center to organize this type of very wonderful conference, peace through meditation, because all responsibility is with the mind. And Buddha had said, Sarvatra alokit man pradhanata, sarvatya vyapta phal mananusar hai, jaise pahiya ghumta bail pak paschat hai. So everything is controlled by the mind. So if we develop our mind, promote our mind, purify our mind, empower our mind, there is 100% guarantee that we will have peace within ourselves, in the family, in the society, in the country, and in the world. So I think this is the thing, and it has nothing to do with any particular religion. Yes, definitely, Buddhism is totally best. I mean, anyone you go to, even I go to the churches also in different countries, and they say the one message, the essence of Buddhism is just peace, because you find there has never been conflict. Even in the entire Buddhist history period, around in the world or in the Asian countries also, during these periods when the Buddhism was focused in their daily lives, in their social life, in the national lives, no conflict was, no unrest was, because these are all possible when we don't practice a wisdomful or compassionate mind. But later on, even in India also, in Nepal also, in many of the Buddhist countries also, conflict happened, and because of that, we had to face many consequences. So again, we have to come really to this Buddhist teaching in the light of the great contributions by the seers of the Buddhist seers, the masters, the monks, who immensely contributed to peace. Because if we don't have peace, we will have nothing, no happiness at all. And during this coronavirus, when we are all feeling unrest, impermanent everything, Buddha talked about anityani satchani. So this is the time that our focus should be on peace, because only a peaceful mind can guarantee happiness for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Alok, for your valuable input and views. Now, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Kundan Aryal if he has anything to answer for Mr. Bhattrai.
I think I don't have anything to say, because we are running out of time, and I have expressed my views, and it is his interpretation. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Now I would like to give the floor to Madan Chitrakar if he has anything to add on that.
Thank you, sir. Well, I fully agree with Dr. Alok. The Buddhism, the message of the Lord Buddha has nothing to do with religion. It's a way of life. His message is a way of life. I fully agree that there were some kind of peace, but there were many varying principalities at those times, medieval times or ancient time. My main concern is Buddhism, the message, the voice of peace has never been more louder than Buddha's message. Just one mustn't forget that he made peace as the main agenda rather than any time of the history older than him. many philosophers came. They all wanted to ascertain, they want to assert their more supremacy of their own thoughts, but not Buddhism. That's the main specialty and peculiarity of the Buddhist thoughts. And moreover, as an artist and an art historian, my main concern is how has art evolved? How has the message of Buddhism inspired the entire generation of artists? The whole art of not only Nepal, but India. We have learned a lot from Indian art. As for example, as I have already mentioned, during 11th century, since 11th century, the art is written, dated. But that came from Pala dynasty in Eastern Indian subcontinent. I think, so this way I think Buddhism, the role of Buddhism cannot be minimized. I think we should not be overlooked. This is how the importance of Buddhism lies. The message of peace and Buddhism are so intertwined together. I think this is all I have to say, Dr. Basnet. Thank you very much for giving me this concluding floor.
Okay, thank you very much for your valuable views. Now I go to Dr. Campos if he has anything to answer to Mr. Bhattrai.
I wanted to just share some research I've come across on the concept of caste. You know, that in the modern day, there is a negative connotation to caste, and because of the notion of equality and inequality. But I have come across some research on history where caste was actually not a negative matter, but it was the station of the family in life. In other words, all this important role, the society was made up of important roles that needed to be carried out. And when you belong to a certain caste, that was not something looked down upon, but that was an important part of society, and that it was hereditary, maybe, you know, not the norm today where people seek a different role from their father, etc. But there was a time these were hereditary roles, and but there was dignity in these roles, and it was not meant to be an exploitative role. So there was harmony in society because everyone knew their place in society. People were not estranged from society, if you will. And so maybe there ought to be some reflection as to a rethinking of the traditional or ancient notion of caste and the modern negative connotation it has been given. Anyway, that was some research I came across on a different interpretation and thinking about the caste system.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Campos. Now, on behalf of the Lumbini Research Center for Understanding and Peace, I would like to thank all the distinguished participants today and for your valuable time and valuable views on the subject matter. Now, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Binod Bista for summing up and concluding remarks. Dr. Bista, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Basnet. Actually, the summarization has been done again and again. I don't think I am required to make another summary. Nevertheless, from my brief learning of Buddhist philosophy, now somebody is saying that Buddhism is not religion. I think Mr. Chitrakar is saying that it's a way of life, and the Hindus also say it's a way of life, it's not religion, Sanatana Dharma, and all that. In my understanding, the Western trained scholars, including Professor Galtung and all, actually Professor Galtung is also talking about Buddha and peace, and because everybody is confused about what really means peace. There is no universality of peace as such. So everybody, every society, every country has to find its own way of peace. It cannot be universalized like even the Universal Declaration of Human Rights does not seem to have worked. So how can peace work? But I think in the Buddha's time itself, if Buddha did not believe or did not think of, let's say, interactions with other people, he wouldn't have created those sanghas. If it were only a person and peace of mind and thinking about oneself, then there wouldn't have been any sanghas, because he knew the importance of living together and for a wider peace. Now, having said that, Buddhist philosophy, he challenges all of us to challenge his thoughts and only accept if we are convinced. Well, that will take very, that makes like eminent persons like Professor Alok, perhaps Sri Chitrakar, readily acceptable because they have understood Buddha very much better than many of us. And it will take a longer time for us to understand Buddha, his philosophy, and to translate it into our life. It's very easy, easier said than done, as they say. It's very easy to say that once you have your peace of mind, then you can be peace with yourself, you can create peace for others, and you can do it all. So it is, as I said, very easy said than done. But like say in this Corona period, how many of us? Well, they say that many of us have lost our mind. We have not become mad, but to the extent of becoming crazy and all, because we can't interact. And confined at home and hardly anything to interact. And thanks to this technology, the modern technology has also given us a lot of things, besides quarreling and fighting and all, but also it has given us such a beautiful opportunity. So you are staying at the, at your homes, in the warm, outside of the cold, and still you are able to discuss freely and openly. So I think Lumbini Research Center would continue to organize because it is less costly, and let me be very frank, less costly. We don't have to beg for donation, don't have to go run around raise funds. And I think we can do a lot of webinars on different subjects. Obviously, it takes some work on our part as well. And if you are all willing, we will be only happy to conduct such seminars in future as well. And thank you for coming here and being with us. And thank you so much. Good night.
Yeah, now I would like to thank our technical support, which was extended by Mr. Surya Basnet, CEO of MounTech Solutions. I thank him immensely because our technical part was quite smooth today, and all our distinguished speakers as well as participants could express their views very, very smoothly. So thank you very much. I conclude this webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.